In the waning years of the Roman Empire, when its vast territories were under constant threat from various barbarian tribes, there emerged a leader of the Visigoths named Alaric I. His tale is one of ambition, warfare, and ultimately, a dramatic siege that would leave an indelible mark on the history of Rome. Alaric was born around 370 AD on Puce Island in the Danube River, in what is now Romania. He belonged to the noble Bulti dynasty of the Visigoths, a group that had been both foes and federates of the Roman Empire. Raised during a time of frequent conflicts and negotiations between the Goths and Romans, Alaric grew up understanding both the military might of Rome and the growing discontent among his people. As a young man, Alaric participated in the Gothic War of 376 to 382 AD under the command of the Gothic leader Fritigern. This war was pivotal in shaping his perception of the Roman Empire's vulnerabilities. The Goths, though initially treated as allies, were often mistreated, and their agreements with Romans were frequently dishonored. These experiences seeded in Alaric a deep desire to achieve a better position for his people within the empire's structure. Alaric's leadership qualities and military prowess became evident as he rose through the ranks. By the late 390s, he was elected as the king of the Visigoths. Viewing the weakening Roman authority as an opportunity, Alaric began his push into the Balkans around 395 AD. His ultimate goal was not just plunder but also to secure a favorable autonomous settlement for his people within the empire. The Visigoths under Alaric sacked several cities and repeatedly clashed with Roman forces. His campaigns through Greece, including the sacking of Athens, demonstrated his strategic acumen and the might of his forces. However, it was his march toward Rome that marked the pinnacle of his career. In 410 AD, Alaric's forces besieged Rome, not once but 3 times. The final siege culminated in the sack of Rome, the first time in 800 years that the city had fallen to a foreign enemy. Despite the violence and destruction, Alaric instructed his men to spare the lives of those who took refuge in Christian churches, including St. Peter's and St. Paul's. Alaric's sack of Rome was not just a quest for riches, it was a political maneuver aimed at forcing the Roman government to grant his people legal recognition and territory within the empire. Unfortunately, Alaric would not see the fulfillment of these goals. Shortly after the sack of Rome, he led his people south, with plans to invade Africa. However, he died suddenly in 410 AD in Cosenza, from illness or perhaps battle wounds. Following his death, according to legend, the course of the Bucento River was temporarily diverted to create a grave for Alaric, where he was buried with his treasure. The river was then returned to its bed, concealing his final resting place forever. Alaric I remains a complex figure, often portrayed as a barbarian invader yet also a visionary leader who fought not just for loot but for the dignity and security of his people. His actions against Rome, dramatic and destructive, were part of a larger strategy to carve out a place for the Visigoths within a crumbling empire. His legacy is a testament to the power of resilience and strategic vision in the face of adversity.
Burial ritual. Alaric was buried under the riverbed of the Bucento, with the waters temporarily diverted to create his tomb, which was then concealed by restoring the river to its course. This elaborate and secretive burial method ensured his grave would remain undiscovered. Respect for holy sites. Despite being a barbarian leader sacking Rome, Alaric instructed his troops to spare Christian holy sites, an act of reverence that stands out against the backdrop of typical sackings that involved widespread plunder and destruction. The sacking of Rome, the very act of successfully besieging and sacking Rome, a city that hadn't been taken by a foreign enemy in nearly 800 years, is a remarkable historical anomaly, reflecting both the decline of Roman power and the audacity of Alaric. Negotiations with Rome. Alaric's continuous negotiations with the Roman authorities, oscillating between peace talks and military threats, illustrate a complex relationship that defies the simple barbarian invader stereotype. His strategic use of siege and diplomacy to achieve political aims was both shrewd and unconventional for a so-called barbarian leader. Dual role as ally and adversary. Alaric's history with the Romans was intricate, having once served as a leader under a Roman emperor and later turning against Rome. This dual role highlights the complex and often contradictory alliances of the time.